page 33 of the Mystics of Islam. When a novice joins them with the purpose of renouncing the world, they subject him to spiritual discipline for the space of 3 years. If he fulfill the requirements of this discipline, well and good. Otherwise, they declare that he cannot be admitted to the path. The first year is devoted to the service of the people, the second to the service of God, and the third to watching over his own heart. He can serve the people only when he places himself in the rank of servants, and all others in the rank of masters, i.e., he must regard all without exception as being better than himself, and must deem it his duty to serve all alike. And he can serve God only when he cuts off all his selfish interests relating either to the present or to the future life, and worships God for God's sake alone, inasmuch as whosoever worships God for anything's sake worships himself, not God. And he can watch over his heart only when his thoughts are collected and every care is dismissed, so that in communion with God, he guards his heart from the assaults of heedlessness. When these qualifications are possessed by the novice, he may wear the muraqa'at, the patched frock worn by dervishes, as a true mystic, not merely as an imitator of others. Shibli was a pupil of the famous theosophist Junaid of Baghdad. On his conversion, he came to Junaid saying, "They tell me that you possess the pearl of divine knowledge. Either give it me or sell it." Junaid answered, "I cannot sell it, for you have not the price thereof, and if I give it you, you will have gained it cheaply. You do not know its value. Cast yourself headlong like me into this ocean in order that you may win the pearl by waiting patiently." Shibli asked what he must do. "Go," said Junaid, "and sell sulfur." At the end of a year, he said to Shibli, "The trading makes you well known. Become a dervish and occupy yourself solely with begging." For a whole year, Shibli wandered through the streets of Baghdad, begging of the passers-by, but no one heeded him. Then he returned to Junaid, who exclaimed, "See now, you're nothing in people's eyes. Never set your mind on them, or take any account of them at all." For some time, he continued, "You were chamberlain, and acted as governor of a province. Go to that country and ask pardon of all those whom you have wronged." Shibli obeyed and spent 4 years in going from door to door until he had obtained an acquittance from every person except one, whom he failed to trace. On his return, Junaid said to him, "You still have some regard to reputation. Go and be a beggar for 1 year more." Every day Shibli used to bring the alms that were given him to Junaid, who bestowed them on the poor and kept Shibli without food until the next morning. When a year had passed in this way, Junaid accepted him as one of his disciples on condition that he should perform the duties of a servant to the others. After a year's service, Junaid asked him, "What think you of yourself now?" Shibli replied, "I deem myself the meanest of God's creatures." "Now," said the master, "your faith is firm. I need not dwell on the details of this training, the fasts and vigils, the vows of silence, the long days and nights of solitary meditation, all the weapons and tactics, in short of the battle against oneself, which the Prophet declared to be more painful and meritorious than the holy war." That's a mistranslation. Than the it's said to be the greater thing. Holy war is not really the thing. Islam doesn't allow wars of conversion. That's what we think of with holy wars. So, but the greater jihad is the lifelong working on yourself. On the other hand, my readers will expect me to describe in a general way the characteristic theories and practices for which the path is a convenient designation. These may be treated under the following heads: poverty, mortification, trust in God, and recollection. Whereas poverty is negative in nature, involving detachment from all that is worldly and unreal, the 3 remaining terms denote the positive counterpart of that process, namely the ethical discipline by which the soul is brought into harmonious relations with reality. The fatalistic spirit which brooded darkly over the childhood of Islam, well, it was never part of Islam, but the feeling that all human actions are determined by an unseen power. You know, God set forth a natural law and knows the outcome, but we certainly have a choice. What were the 4 things destined? People, how long a person lives, where they go, how good and evil they're going to be, how much wealth they're going to have. These are things that can be, you know, and in themselves are worthless and vain, caused renunciation to become the watchword of early Muslim asceticism. Every true believer is bound to abstain from unlawful pleasures, but the ascetic acquires merit by abstaining from those which are lawful. Now, not in the Islamic view, of course. But at first, renunciation was understood almost exclusively in a material sense. To have as few worldly goods as possible seemed the surest means of gaining salvation. Dabood al-Ta'eh owned nothing except a mat or brushes, a brick which he used as a pillow, and a leathern vessel which served him for drinking and washing. A certain man dreamed that he saw Malik ibn Dinar and Muhammad ibn Wasa being led into paradise, and that Malik was admitted before his companion. He cried out in astonishment, for he thought Muhammad ibn Wasa had a superior claim to the honor. Yes, came the answer, but Muhammad ibn Wasa possessed 2 shirts, and Malik only one. That is the reason why Malik is preferred. The Sufi idea of poverty goes far beyond this. True poverty is not merely lack of wealth, but lack of desire for wealth, the empty heart as well as the empty hand. The poor man's fakir and the mendicant dervish are names by which the Muslim mystic is proud to be known, because they imply that he is stripped of every thought and wish that would divert his mind from God. Now, if the pride in that might, make that even worse, right? But I know the phrase, that they don't necessarily mean that these people are arrogant. To be severed entirely from both the present life and the future life, and to want nothing besides the Lord of the present life and the future life, that is, to be truly poor. Such a fakir is denuded of individual existence, so that he does not attribute to himself any action, feeling, or quality. He may even be rich in the common meaning of the word, though spiritually he is the poorest of the poor, for sometimes God endows his saints with an outward show of wealth and worldliness in order to hide them from the profane. No one familiar with the mystical writers would need to be informed that their terminology is ambiguous, and that the same word